data is exponentially increased in value. It's the most valuable commodity on planet Earth now. I think we need to change the model of how we get data from people. And again, I do believe that a majority of people would be fine sharing their data if two things happen. They're aware of what they're sharing, they have control over it, and they're also being rewarded directly for that data. If you give them that control and management and awareness along with the ability to be compensated, I don't think that most people are against sharing their data.
All right, Swish, welcome to Meld, man. I'm excited to have you here.
Thank you for having me. Very excited.
Yeah, man. Last time we did a podcast together, we're on the opposite sides of the mic, so it's going to be cool.
Yep, 100%. It was actually one of my favorite episodes. I do remember that because it was also season 1, and I feel like the energy was great. It wasn't COVID. We were able to record it in person in a studio, so that was really fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. For those listening, I'll post that link to the Tech House in the description of this podcast. You guys can listen to that, where Swish, as an amazing host, we spoke about virtual reality and what that means for the film industry. So that was really fun. And again, pre-COVID, that was amazing, right?
Yeah,
such
totally
a different time.
World. Yeah, I honestly feel like when I've looked back now and I've categorized moments in my life, it's really starting to fall into pre-COVID and post-COVID. It used to actually be before high school ended and after high school ended, like college. But I feel like my kind of moments and the way that I'm judging them now have changed pretty dramatically.
Yeah, it's so true, right? The world has changed so much. We're thinking pre and post COVID. You see that with everything. I think people are pitching stuff with that now with new companies. So it's interesting. What have you guys seen with Trufan over the last year? How have you guys changed? Were you guys remote before? Have you guys switched remote? What was that like for you guys?
Yeah, we started Trufan 3 years ago out of the office in Vancouver. So we were working out of the Hootsuite office because Ryan Holmes, the CEO of Hootsuite at the time, now the chairman, was an advisor in Trufan, an early advisor, very, very kind supporter of our business. And so we had about 8-9 people at our peak in Vancouver before we moved out to Toronto. We worked out around 13 Capital's office because they came on as the lead investor for our pre-seed. And then I think it was around, I want to say early 2020, we were working out of the DMZ because we got into the DMZ accelerator and we did that for 4 or 5 months. And COVID came in obviously around March of 2020, which meant we weren't able to finish our entire program with the DMZ. We finished virtually, but not in person. But ever since then, we've been an entirely remote team. We have a development team that's based mainly in Kelowna, British Columbia. A lot of our sales and marketing team is here in Toronto. But we also had certain people that our CFO and our CMO went back to the United States to be back with family. So we are kind of a spread out team across North America, but candidly, we all really enjoy working virtually. It's been actually quite a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, I bet. Of course, there's something to be said about the culture, especially being at the DMZ. I used to work there and I worked out of there with my company for a while too. Mm-hmm. And it's such a great vibe, right? You're learning so much. You get to see people every day. You're seeing what other startups are doing. And it's just the energy there is just electric, eh? Yeah,
the energy is great. But candidly, I think our company culture has actually been a lot better virtually than it has even in a physical environment. I don't know what it is, but yeah, people just are a lot more comfortable now that they can wear pajamas and take a call and be in their environment, have their pets near them, eat whatever food they want because they're at home. So I feel like for us, we've done a very good job of not trying to book too many calls for people during the week, but still setting up, a Monday morning huddle, Wednesday executive call, Friday team call. Every 2 weeks, we'll play a game in that Friday team call. Every 3 weeks, we do a hopes and fears session, where you come on and you just share your doubts, your insecurities, your anxieties, but also your hopes, your wishes, what you really are excited about going forward. So these sort of virtual sessions, whether they're 30 minutes to an hour, have been just a great way to make sure people don't feel alone either. They feel like there's a community around them, a family around them that's willing to hear them, support them, and is super excited for what they're doing.
Oh man, I'm so glad to hear that, because what I've been seeing and what I've been experiencing and hearing from people online, it's just that community aspect from people's lives have been totally shattered, right? We talked about pre-post COVID. Yep. During COVID, it just seems like everyone's communities was shattered. And most people are not very religious these days anymore. So they don't even have their religious, I don't know what you would call it, community. Right. Family for a lot of people, they're either overseas or on the other side of the country. They're not really seeing them. Yep. And they couldn't really see friends, right? So the company really is the community that you have. So that's awesome to hear that you guys have been doing that and getting a little bit deeper into people's well-being. So is there other stuff that you guys have done when it comes to remote culture and obviously growing the team and, having everyone still working together? Like, are there other things that you guys have done to keep that remote culture alive?
Definitely. I mean, number one is I think investing in the right tools. Like we immediately started looking at, all right, do we have to be on Notion? We started using Cohen for our OKRs, our goals that we were setting. And we also have check-ins that we do on that platform, Cohen. So every single week, every single member of our team will write a reflection, things they enjoyed this week, things they didn't enjoy doing this week, what they're really excited about next week. And that sort of reflection has been very helpful for us to also understand what other people at the company are doing. But also, like especially my partner in crime, Onik, who's our COO, if he does see that, an executive is feeling pretty stressed out about something, he can then preemptively go and obviously reach out, book a call with them and make sure they're feeling good. He's also great at doing weekly check-ins with every single one of our execs. So he does those check-ins every Thursday. And it's also been great that we, in our last round, our seed round, we brought on Moneta Ventures out of Sacramento. Their partner, Sabia Das, has been incredibly helpful in terms of doing like weekly calls with our CMO, weekly calls with our director of sales, and weekly calls with me and my co-founder, Onik. So they've just been a very kind of operational VC, which I loved because it was exactly what we were looking for. And they've been very supportive with intros, with giving their kind of 2 cents, even sometimes doing work for us, like research, market research. It's been incredible to be able to work with them as well.
Oh, that's so cool, man. A lot of people think of when they go and get VC funding, it's just they're getting a check. It's just cash.
Yeah.
But it's so much better to actually have like a partner in there, right? I'm seeing a lot of that these days.
Yeah, 100%. And I think more and more now VCs are trying to fight for deals, right? And I think the only way to really fight for a deal past money, or if you were maybe Andreessen Horowitz and you had a great network, then that's great, obviously. But for like a majority of the VCs, especially in Canada, the biggest thing they can do to really differentiate themselves is show operational expertise. We are seven partners that have actually built something in your space. That's a great way, I think, to stand out from a number of other VCs that might not really understand your space. They like you, they want to get involved, but they don't have a lot of operational expertise. So that was one big thing we look for, honestly, in our seed round. And actually, even in the current fundraise we're doing right now, we're very much looking for that as well.
Yeah, man, that's a really good point. I think like right now it's like a seller's market, right? Like more people are trying to throw money at businesses. So like, what are the other things you guys are looking for? Like when you're looking for an investor, obviously you could probably have a short list of a bunch of people like, hey, we want to work with them. But at this point, it seems like you can get the money from other places. So what else are you guys thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, definitely operational expertise is one. The second is vision. Like, do they actually align with our vision? And it's pretty clear, like when someone doesn't align with your vision or they don't understand fully where you're trying to go as a company. And I think the third is honestly just like when we interview other portfolio companies, we obviously do our due diligence to make sure that they tell us, how was it working with the VC? Do they stay incredibly involved? Do they kind of give you the freedom to be able to decide where you want to go? Are they really helpful with setting up intros? Do they love promoting you? Like these are the types of things that are kind of intangibles, but you really only understand them when you talk to portfolio companies within that VC. It's very hard to do it in a Zoom call for 30 minutes because you don't really know how to measure things they're saying. So those are kind of three things we mainly look for. I think past that, again, you just probably want to be able to vibe with the person obviously you're bringing on as well. Like in our seed round, we brought on Moneta Ventures onto our board, and we brought on specifically Sabia, who was their partner there, onto our board. So just making sure that like we could work with Sabia. He was a good person. We liked him. That's also pretty crucial as well, especially if you're going to work with someone for 3, 4, 5, 10 years even.
True, because like you're bringing them on as a partner, right? They're coming on with you. It's not just like, okay, we're taking your money and that's it. Like they have say in like where the ship is going, right?
Exactly. Yeah, they have a say, and I mean, you do have to talk to them. So I think the biggest thing about building a company as a luxury, in my opinion, is you get to determine the people you surround yourself with. So I've always told founders, if there's someone at the company and you think about them and you start to feel your heart getting pressured and your chest tightens and you're feeling anxious, you probably should not hire them. Or you should probably let go of them. Or you should probably look at figuring out a way to maybe change your relationship with them, because there's no excuse for having toxic people or bad people, and especially in an early stage startup. You have the control to be able to pick who you want to work with. So you can determine that and pick good people, ideally, people that you respect, people that you are super happy to even hear their name. It brings you happiness to even think of them. That's essentially what I think you should be focusing on, especially when you're hiring.
That makes total sense, because a lot of people just hire, okay, clear cut, like we need a developer. Are they like the best designer? Can they like create this thing? But man, that's such a good point. And the way that you speak about your company and like the people, like it literally is the company, not just a business, but the other side of that, the company.
Yep.
You know, you're going to be talking with these people. You want to be able to share your hopes and fears and desires with people, and you want to build like a small family almost and have that kind of grow. That's amazing. I love that.
Absolutely, because you are, again, in it for the long haul, right? Like I think I was pretty naive when I was like 18 or 19 in college, thinking like, oh, if I built a startup, I probably could exit it in like 2 or 3 years. And it's like, you can, but like really you shouldn't be in a startup, in my opinion. I don't think you should be in it for thinking about like a monetary benefit in 2 to 3 years. You know, I think honestly, if you were looking for a monetary benefit in the short term, you might as well just kill your back and go and work at like a consulting firm or a law firm and do that for 2 or 3 years. You'll make great money. You wouldn't like have any life outside of work, but if that's what you're motivated by, there are other ways to get short-term wealth. But if you're truly building a company, you need to be there because you're excited about the problem you're solving, you're excited about the solution you built, and you're excited about the team you've built. I mean, if you're not excited about any one of those three things, you're probably not doing it right, in my opinion.
Oh man, that is so true. And you know, let's back it up for people who are like, "Hey, what the hell is Trufan even?" Mm-hmm. This is going to be in the description, right? So, what is it? So, you just talked about these things, your vision, your mission, all these things. So what exactly does Trufan do, and what is your vision, mission? What are you trying to accomplish here other than making a lot of money?
Yeah, no, 100%. So we provide high fidelity data to brands, and the data specifically we offer to brands right now is first party data and social data. So we give a brand like Nike or Netflix or the NBA, we give them an idea of who follows them on Instagram and Twitter and allow them to segment that audience to find people, for example, in Miami between 0 to 100,000 followers that are verified and have the keyword vegan in their bio. That's how granular you can go using our system. We also operate with first-party data, so emails and phone numbers and mailing addresses. We help a brand not only segment and analyze that, we can actually help them generate it. And we generate that primarily through giveaways. So the brand will give away something of value to their community. People will be excited about it. They'll enter their data for the chance to win a prize. And it's a win-win. You know, you're getting something potentially for your data. You're sharing data on your own terms, on your own volition as a consumer. And the brand is getting high fidelity data they can use for remarketing later on. So we're really excited about what we're doing, but equally also as excited about where we're going, where we're really trying to take this idea of compensating people for their data to the next level. So we're launching a browser extension. We call it Surf. Surf will give you points for just browsing the internet like normal. So in exchange for those points that you can use for items and gift cards and giveaways and discount codes, you'll be giving us your browsing data, which, by the way, you already do to Google, but you'll be giving us your browsing data and obviously a little bit more information that we can then anonymize and cohort and share with the same brands that we're providing social and first-party data to as well. Because a big hypothesis we have for where the future is going is, in the future, there will be a world where people want to not be tracked whatsoever. And that's totally legitimate. But we also think there'll be a group of people that are totally fine with sharing their data if there's something in it for them. And so that's what we're trying to provide is if you want the option for a fairer and more rewarding internet experience, you can get that using us as a consumer. And on the flip side, if you're a brand looking for the highest fidelity data that isn't linked to third-party cookies or isn't linked to paid ads or isn't linked to anything that GDPR and CCPA might take away in 3 or 4 or 5 years, you can get that sort of data directly from us because everything is opt-in.
Oh, man, that's awesome. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to dig deep on this, man, because this is really fucking fascinating. So the first thing I want to bring up is what you're even doing right now with the giveaways is actually brilliant because I've done that with my apparel company, Longboy, and it was like the best way to generate leads. Like it was amazing, especially if you're giving away something that you're already selling. Like it's great for a D2C brand like ourselves. We're like, okay, we're giving away a really expensive jacket that most people won't buy, but everyone wants it. So we know they're actually interested in the product. And it's been amazing. And do you guys have like the viral loop component within it so they can like share that campaign and then get more entries? Can't remember what it's called, but I'm sure there's a term for that.
Yeah, I don't exactly know the term that you might be thinking, but yeah, we do have quite a viral loop in the sense of people come on and they create an account.
Sweepstake, I think.
It's a sweepstake, 100%. Yeah, but they create an account with us. So it's also worth noting, like now we've had over 1 million people share their data for the chance to win a prize through our platform. Out of those, about 250,000 have opted into our email newsletter as well. So, you know, we're also building up our own database of people that just love doing giveaways in exchange for the chance to win a prize. And so normally what a brand is able to do is they can drive traffic to a number of different things. And especially for creating the giveaway, we've built like a sandbox of different integrations. So if you're a brand, you can drive traffic for app downloads. You can drive traffic for newsletter signup. You can get social followers on Twitch and TikTok and Instagram and Twitter. There's a big myriad of different choices that you can drive traffic to. And every single individual can come on. They don't necessarily always need to do all of the items in the giveaway, like all the rules, but they can do the ones they want. And for each one of those, they'll get tickets. So if you want more tickets, you want to do more rules. If you don't want as many tickets, you can do a few, get a couple of tickets, and then obviously there's a random lottery with equal dignity that'll pick the winner at the end of the campaign.
Yeah, that's awesome. And like, which industries and giveaways have you seen worked best with this? Like, what kind of industries have been just nailing it with this?
I think direct to consumer and e-commerce, like you mentioned, is definitely pretty easy because, again, like you said, a lot of these companies already do provide product. And obviously, you have certain products that sell well. You also have other ones that, like you said, people desire, they wish they could afford, but they can't. So giving away those sort of items is great. The second is candidly like gaming. We've seen a lot of like really great brands like Bud Light came on to do a campaign with us. They wanted to drive traffic to their Twitch account because they were setting up a gaming audience. They were able to get over 10,000 Twitch followers in a month and a half of using our platform. We had G Fuel, which is like the Gatorade for the gaming industry, come on and run a few campaigns. And they were able to see about 150% increase in click-through rate and a 200% increase in conversion on the email campaigns that they sent out using our data, like the emails they generated through our platform. And you also had, a company like Electronic Arts do like their annual EA Play live stream where they announce new games. And for an hour, people watch that live stream and they watch it all the way through because throughout that live stream, there's a bunch of secret codes. So like imagine the host was picking up and drinking water. At the bottom, there's a secret code. If you get all the letters in that code and put it onto our platform, you'll be entered for a prize, like an instant win prize, whether it's a bunch of new games, whether it's an EA membership for a year. There's a bunch of really cool rewards built in through secret codes. So again, the coolest thing about our platform is that we just allow for you to kind of engage your audience in whatever way you want. But at the end of the day, like you said, it is a sweepstakes platform, right? You are giving data up for the chance to win a prize. And you are obviously doing certain rules through the process of sharing that data.
That's actually really cool. I love how people kind of like hack systems like that to do really cool stuff like that. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
And you're really mentioning gaming here. And I know that you're a big gamer, so am I. And like, is that kind of where you see things going? Like, I mean, you're talking about this data ownership, compensation for their data. Yep. I'm sure we'll get into like NFTs and like crypto at some point in here. I want to go get your thoughts on that. But you also acquired a company called Player. So you're really thinking about like gaming. And with everything here, everything's being gamified. The world is being gamified. Business is being gamified. How are you thinking about that now? And I do want to ask you about Player and what that acquisition was like and sort of why you decided to acquire them.
Initially, before we acquired Player, we were just a platform that worked on social data, Instagram and Twitter data. And we felt like it was a little bit risky to scale a company that was very contingent on the kind of privacy concerns that might be affecting Facebook or Twitter in the future. It would be a little bit scary to kind of bet our business on making sure that these platforms continue to stay alive and are being looked at in a good way. So we wanted to maybe diversify what sort of data we provided our brands. And so we looked at first-party data. We thought it was smart because of the fact that cookies are going away, obviously, on Google in the next 2 years. They're already gone in Safari and Firefox. You have, obviously, the issue of GDPR and CCPA as a regulation changing the way advertisers advertise. You have Apple with their recent iOS update taking out mobile ad tracking pretty much entirely. There's only been about 5% of users that have accepted tracking altogether on their mobile phones. The vast majority of people do not want to be tracked because there's really nothing in it for them. And you also have the issue of ad blockers rising, with paid ads also losing effectiveness because of that. So with all of these changes, we felt like first-party data that you get directly from consumers would likely do well. So the question in my head became, how do you get that data effectively? So initially we thought, why don't we just reward people off the bat? But it became a little bit expensive to think about that right away. So we thought, why don't we test it? Are people even fine sharing their data if they get some sort of value back? And we were looking at a bunch of sweepstakes platform and we came across Player. And we felt like Player was great for two reasons. One, they built this incredibly amazing organic community. Yes, a lot of those people are gamers, which I also love because every major brand seems to want to get into gaming because that's where the 18 to 30-year-old male tends to spend a lot of time in America and Canada, etc. But it was also cool to see their technology. Their technology was very well built out. like I mentioned, a sandbox of different integrations that allowed people to drive traffic to various places. So we did an acqui-hire. We brought on their entire development team, along with their platform, their brand, and their customers. And it was our second acquisition. So we were pretty experienced with how to go about integrating the products together. We rolled out a unified product about a month and a half ago. Basically, everything we were working on with social data is now tied to first-party data as well in one dashboard. It's not two different dashboards. We are really excited about this idea that people are willing to share their data for the chance to win a prize. And now, obviously, my thought is, what if it was a guaranteed prize? What if you didn't even have a chance? Just like you get points for sharing your data. And with those points, you can do some really cool stuff. And I think people have bought into that premise already. When you take a look at like Air Miles, or you take a look at Lolly, or you take a look at Drop, people are willing to share their purchasing data, for example, for the chance to get a bunch of really cool points that could add up to a vacation or AirPods or whatever. So I just don't see why we can't take that principle and apply it to browsing as well.
That's awesome. So is that the idea of Surf now? So they're going to be accumulating points, and then they'll be able to use those points on buying things or trading it?
Yeah, exactly. Like redeeming it. So we have about 65 reward providers, ranging from Apple to Nike to Amazon to Sephora, a bunch of really cool brands that are integrated into the platform. And it's going to be cool because, in my opinion, it'll be like the world's first rewards app that actually just rewards you for passive browsing. There are browsers, obviously, like Brave, and Brave is amazing, 26 million monthly active users. But at the end of the day, Brave is still an ads network. You only really get compensated for watching ads, and you obviously get compensated through a cryptocurrency. So for us, we've just tried to keep things very simple. There's no crypto involved. It's tangible rewards that anyone, including my mom, could understand what they are and why I would want them. And it's a browser extension, which means you don't have to download a separate browser, and you don't need to take surveys or watch ads. Everything we will reward you for is all passive, things you already do on a daily basis.
This would work now in Safari. Now Safari does extensions, so that's awesome. That's perfect. And then I think what's really, really cool about it too is it's just the passivity of it, stuff that you're already doing. So is it the idea that they're going to be on this website, the BlogTO, for example, they're on there, and you're going to just take the data of like their browsing history, their cookies that you would normally get, I guess are going to be going away, as you said, in the next 2 years. So you're able to capture that, store it with them in their own account, and then where do the brands come in there? What kind of data are they getting? Is it only when they choose the rewards, or are all those brands getting that data? How does that look like?
Yeah, so essentially what a user is going to come on and do is they're going to enter a little bit of information, right? They'll enter in their location, they'll enter in their birthday, they'll enter in their gender as well. And so we'll have some, high level data of who these people are in terms of what group we can associate them to. Again, however, all the data that we collect from a browsing perspective is entirely anonymized. So someone is never going to know that like Josh went to these sites. They won't even know your name, frankly, right? They'll know that Josh is 24 to 35 in Toronto and really interested in entrepreneurship. That's the type of way that we would be able to classify you. And so what's cool is when we do monetize and we bring brands in, they'll be able to understand the demographic they care about by location, gender, and age. They'll be able to understand what are some of the most popular sites they go to as a collective. What are some of the biggest streamers they follow? What publications do they read? What stocks do they look at? Where do they mainly shop? This is the sort of information that can't get anymore with third-party cookies going away. Websites can really only understand their own traffic on their own site. But after someone leaves your site, you don't really have an idea of what they do on the internet. And that's what we're hoping to be able to provide brands, again, through an anonymized and cohorted fashion, but still, in my opinion, data that's valuable when it comes to determining partnerships, where to spend your money on, who to advertise to, etc. And then obviously the second layer is that if a brand does want to not just get intelligence, they can also obviously put up a reward in our marketplace or share more discount codes if they want to drive attribution and conversion.
That is awesome. This is really starting to feel like we're getting over the hump here from like Web 2.0 to Web 3.0. Even though you said it's not really crypto related, it really does feel that way.
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet. I'm sure there's plans. It's not just Facebook taking all this data here and then just, taking the pixels, tracking you everywhere. And I think that's really key, right? For people, like you said, people are right now, they're getting their data just kind of taken from them without any say. They're not really getting anything in return other than the platform, other than being able to use Facebook and Google
for free,
getting those ads exactly for free. And most people have the ad blockers on anyway, so they're not seeing those ads. So it's kind of weird.
Yeah, the way we viewed the trade-off is just like 10, 12 years ago, that was totally fine. Like, right? People didn't really care when trackers and cookies and these social companies were tracking them because in 2006, 2007, we had Facebook for free. We had Google Maps for free. We were getting the App Store for free, and we didn't really care where we shared our data. But obviously now in the last 10 years where, you realize that these tracking methods are really invasive. Cambridge Analytica proved it. The Facebook data leaks continue to prove it. But also that data is exponentially increased in value. It's the most valuable commodity on planet Earth now. I think we need to change the model of how we get data from people. And again, I do believe that a majority of people would be fine sharing their data if two things happen. They're aware of what they're sharing, they have control over it, and they're also being rewarded directly for that data. If you give them that control and management and awareness along with the ability to be compensated, I don't think that most people are against sharing their data. They just want to be, again, in control of it, to be able to manage what they share. And also, obviously, being compensated is like the cherry on the cake, if you will.
It is, yeah. It keeps them coming back, right? Because then they're getting something, and there we go again, that viral loop, getting them coming back and gamifying it. So, yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how this goes. And I think you guys are really tackling it from like a really ethical way. And I could actually kind of want to bring this back. So you studied, actually, you have a degree, right, in peace, conflict, and justice studies with ethics, society, and law. So how much has your studies from that played a role in what you're doing now? Like, it seems like you're taking a more of an ethical approach to what you're doing. And how are you making sure that this is all ethical?
Yes, I actually did not graduate. I spent 2 years at the University of Toronto before dropping out. And that's when I moved to New York for a year. I worked at a company before called Dunk. Became co-founders with a guy named Elliot. Elliot had built this massive Instagram account for basketball fans at Dunk on Instagram. And I had come on, and in a year and a half, we'd built this media network of 21 accounts on Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter with 11 million followers overall. Taught me obviously a lot about influencer marketing, working with brands, because we were working with Warner Music, Gatorade, 2K, etc. for influencer partnerships, and also just on building a community from scratch. So I think a lot of those lessons, honestly, did teach me a lot about Trufan, specifically around surf as well. Not honestly too much of my degree factored into surf. Like I've just also, like, even before I studied ethics, society, and law, I was like a very principally sound person, I would like to believe. I come from a household that is, all about like fairness and justice and making sure that equality is upheld at the highest level. And it's an incredibly tolerant family as well. So I just think for me, like, I wanted to take those same principles that I grew up with and apply it to the way we treat consumers. And, whether it's treating consumers in politics, whether it's treating them and the choices they can make over their body or their food choices, or whether it's even the choices they can make within the data economy, I think equality is a standard that should be upheld at every level. So we're just trying to take that principle and apply it to this new sector.
Oh, that's good, man. Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad there's people like you that are like, the people who are now at the forefronts of the companies that are going to be coming up now that maybe aren't at the top, like the Facebooks and Googles of the world. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, Google now doesn't have the "Don't be evil" slogan. I'm kind of scared, a little bit scared.
What are they going to do?
You kind of hope, yeah. You kind of hope that the people behind it are ethical and they have some morals. So that's cool that that you have that. And what was it about going to New York, working on Dunk, that kind of made you want to start Trufan? Like, what for you was that entrepreneurial awakening? Did you always want to be an entrepreneur? Like, was that a thing for you?
I didn't really even know the word entrepreneur, candidly, until I was like 18 years old. And I remember learning it actually through people like Gary Vaynerchuk for the first time, when they were like, entrepreneurship is something anyone can do. And I was like, what? I thought you always had to be like rich to start a business. Like, I didn't really know that, like, there was an ability to start a business from scratch and grow it and scale it and raise money in this whole world called VC. Like, I didn't really know about it. Because again, in high school, I was debating at a fairly high level. I was on the national team in Canada for about 2 years. And normally, if you debate at a fairly high level, your world is really around like academia, law, and politics. So like those were kind of the three paths I put in front of myself. And so I did decide that I wanted to be a lawyer coming out of high school. Obviously, that didn't happen. But I chose programs in university specifically to be on the path towards law school. So yeah, I mean, like, again, I think I was always very entrepreneurial in the sense of like, when I was 14, I joined a program called Junior Achievement in Calgary. And for 6 months, you work with other people and create a business. And we built this custom lapels pins company and sold about $26,000 worth of it over the summer. I remember, like, when I was 18, I created a charity called Canada Thinks. It was a bunch of conferences across Canada. All the money was pooled into a youth fund for young entrepreneurs to be able to hopefully start their business with 500, $1,000, nothing too great, but definitely some money for a high schooler to be able to get off the ground in some way, whether it's a subscription for Shopify or it's being able to buy a course at Udemy or Masterclass. So we were pretty like entrepreneurial in that way, but I always viewed all of that stuff more like hobbies and like side projects, and I did like as my career. And I think it was only my experience in New York where I started to like really surround myself with creatives and entrepreneurs, where I understood that this could be a viable full-time career if done properly. So that was a kind of a big awakening, kind of being in New York and being surrounded by those types of people taught me quite a bit.
Yeah, I bet, man. And so, like, for you, what would you tell other people now? Like the younger people, because like there's a lot of people, like you said, they don't even know entrepreneur is like a word. Like they don't even know what that really means. You could even do this kind of stuff. You don't have to just work a job. You can start something. For you, like, what would you do? I mean, you've kind of already started by investing in these young entrepreneurs. What kind of things would you tell maybe even your younger self when you're like 17 or 18? Like, how would you go about starting your entrepreneurial path?
Two things. One is be curious. Like, curiosity is such an underrated trait among people, especially because I feel like as you grow up, the school system, for lack of a better word, just badgers kind of curiosity and creativity a little bit out of you. I, by the way, am not an anti-college person in any way. I actually do wish that I one day go back to school and finish my degree, because I think a degree is obviously very important, and definitely for certain people, like that might, live in a household where you want to pay off debt for your family, or you want to get a high-paying job right away and have that security. I do obviously think it's important, but I think curiosity is a humongous trait. Like just the fact of like, having things that I was curious about. I was so curious about Bollywood. I was curious about basketball. I was curious about data growing up. I was curious a lot about rewards, and like literally like I was the biggest like user of air miles. I was the biggest user of Drop when I moved to Toronto, because I was like, this is a no-brainer. Why wouldn't I get cash back or points for things that I already do on a daily basis? So I think back to all of that, and I feel like the more curious I was about other things, it allowed me to kind of take a lot of my interests and kind of connect them to each other, if you will. Like Trufan is a company now that we have a Bollywood talent agency as an advisor. We have basketball players as an investor. We're obviously providing data to brands, but we're also now launching this rewards app. It feels like everything has come full circle, but it's also because there were a lot of curiosities throughout my years that just led me to think deeper about certain issues and connect the dots. The second thing I think is focus on your network. For me, I do believe that I am quite lucky, because in my first and second year, I interviewed a lot of people, and a lot of those people turned out to be high net worth individuals, like the Michael Hyatts of the world, that were incredibly supportive of me when I was launching Trufan. Whether it was from an investment perspective, introing me to people, sitting down with me and telling me what not to do early on, those were the people that guided me. So I do think focusing on your network is a big tip. And the number one way I grew my network was by interviewing people, whether it's through a podcast or an interview series. I realized that like 99% of people love talking about themselves. I am exhibit A. So play to that, aspect of human nature. Interview people. It's far better to ask them for an interview than ask them for coffee.
Oh man, that is key. That's exactly why I started this podcast. It's for those two things: curiosity. What are the things I'm interested in? How can I learn about it? And then while I'm learning about it directly from people, you're building your network, and it becomes like this exponential growth curve that's just like it just compounds, right? And I call it like compounding your knowledge at the same time as putting more nodes out in the network. And you kind of like, I was just watching you, the way that you kind of made those connections, like physically. Anyone listening, he's kind of like putting nodes out in a network almost. So you watch on YouTube with what he was doing. It was really, really interesting that you were doing that, because that's exactly how I think about it. It's like you're a node in this network of people, especially now on the internet. You're literally connected to people. You're much more likely to be able to have a conversation for an hour. Like you and I are going to have, this can be about an hour conversation. It probably wouldn't have been an hour if I was like, hey man, like, do you want to hop on Zoom and can I pick your brain? It's like, no, there's no purpose here. Like we're learning something. Hopefully you come out of this too with something. I like to unlock certain nodes in people's minds too. And you get to talk about yourself and what you're working on and put that out there as well.
Definitely. And I think, again, it's also a great way because you're providing value to someone up front, right? Like I do find that when people ask me for coffee, especially when they don't give an agenda, it's like at the end of the day, you're really just taking time away from that person, and you're not really giving them anything in return. So I just love the idea of interviewing people because, again, like people love talking about themselves. You might be able to do a great job, producing this podcast or writing an awesome article that I'm super proud about and I will want to share to my network. They're just like a win-win-win-win across so many different levels.
It totally is, right? It's like creating content for yourself. You don't have to put any real effort other than the conversation and just put out your
Yep.
ideas. It's so true, man. So like for the people who maybe don't want to start a podcast, I always tell people start a podcast is the best thing for the network. Like just like this is exhibit A, right? So for the
Yep.
people who aren't, they just want coffee. What other things could they do to bring value to people to have that conversation?
Two things. One is also setting up introductions for people. I've preemptively gone out of my way, even if I don't know someone, to just connect them to people. And I love doing that. Just it's really neat to be able to like build an initial network and then connect dots within the network so the network grows. And then you benefit from it as well because you've built up goodwill. And you've also tapped now into a broader network where you might be 1 degree connection away from someone you really want to meet down the road. So connecting people to one another is something I try to do on a daily basis, candidly. Like if someone asks me for an intro, unless they've done something bad to me already, I'm just like, yeah, sure, let's do it. Because I really just have a little bit of a low ego there, but I also like feel like if the intro is pretty valuable to both sides, why shouldn't I do it? It would just be a no-brainer for me to do that. And the second thing I think is spotlighting people and checking in with them. So whether it's someone launched a book, someone launched an app, taking time out to just make a LinkedIn post congratulating them or to put it up on your Instagram story and say, great job, super excited. Like that sort of supportive nature is always something people love. And equally so checking in, right? I think now more than ever, now that we're coming out of COVID, knock on wood, hopefully, I do think that question like, hey, how are you doing? I'm just checking in is so underrated. And it's something you should absolutely send to people close to you or people that you want to build a relationship with, just so that they know that like after your first conversation, you didn't just ghost them and like continue to try to climb the social ladder, that you actually do care about the relationships that you built around you.
Man, that is so key because otherwise you're just using people. It's like that transactional versus transformational relationships, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so key. Do you have like any kind of tools that you use to manage these, like your network, like some kind of personal CRM? Because a lot of people for business, they'll use some kind of CRM, and I'm sure you can just use your contact book, but it gets crazy, right? So I always like ask people if there's little tools or hacks that you've used to kind of manage this network. So I've imagined that over the years, your network has grown pretty large. So if there's anything that you use or anything you think about when you're managing all this, we'd love to hear it.
I mean, I don't have any tools, but I do three things. One is I have a list on my notes about like, just core people that I should always reach back out to and check in with if I haven't heard from them. And by the way, that isn't just like professional relationships, it's also like personal. Obviously, like given the fact that I moved around a bunch from Calgary to Toronto to New York to Vancouver, back to Toronto, there were people I met throughout that I really liked, and I just lost touch with them because of the fact that I'm not in the same city as them. But I want to make sure I check in with them so that hopefully one day our paths align again. So that's one, is just have a note where you maybe check in on that note every month and put a reminder in your calendar to do so. The second thing is commenting back. I take every comment that I get on LinkedIn and I physically comment back to it, whether it's Instagram as well, like on my stories. I will try to take time out to reply to every single person I replied to my stories. And just taking time out to do that is a great way, again, to just make sure that like people know that you are there for them. People know that you are actually like interested in your community and you're not just looking to build a community for the sake of making money. I think the third and final thing for me, which I think has really helped me, is following up with people. So when people do set up introductions for me, I just make sure to always go back to the original person and follow up with them. And I actually do make a note sometimes in my calendar about this, is like after that call, I'll just put a quick calendar invite to say, follow up with Josh and let him know how great a connection Annie was, or like what we chatted about, and give a bit of a summary. Because again, it makes people feel not out of the loop. It makes them feel like they're a part of that process.
Totally. I love that. I'm gonna make notes of this. So any podcast I do pretty extensive like show notes. So I love having these kind of things. This is why I do the podcast, right? To learn about these things that people do to kind of follow up. And I think it's key, like you said, using your calendar and using these external tools, because our minds will totally fuck us over, man. It's not that you want to be a dick. You're just like, okay, I just totally forgot. I had like a million other things to do. So do you have like an extensive or maybe not extensive, do you have like a productivity sort of system, like where you offload some of the stuff from your brain?
Yeah, I mean, I do the reflections obviously on Cohen, the platform I was talking about earlier, every week, and that really helps just get things off my head and kind of resolve certain things that I wanted to resolve in my head. I have a to-do list on notes that I obsessively check and update, and I also tend to text myself a lot and put calendar invite reminders. So, I might be a little bit OCD, but like I'm just incredibly scared of forgetting things. So I just go a little bit out of my way to make sure that I don't forget things. And that sometimes does cause a lot of like madness in my head, which is why, whether it's texting myself or adding a calendar invite reminder or putting things in notes or reflections, like those are just so important for me because it allows me to offload knowledge to another platform. I know where it is and I can continue with my day with an open mind.
Yeah, that's key. Did you ever do any kind of like courses or learn about like these kind of productivity tools or like the way that you actually, do business in today's day and age with everything being digital using notes? You mentioned Notion before.
Yep.
Do you use Notion personally? Do you use it just for business? Are there other tools that you use in the stack to kind of, like you said, compound your knowledge and take notes and save things and share with your team members and clients and partners? Like there's just so much that goes into business nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, as a team, we use Slack as our communication platform, Jira obviously for the devs and especially, but we even added in our marketing team and our customer success team just so they have visibility into what's going on the product side. We use Cohen for reflections and our OKRs, like our objectives and key results, our goals. And we use what else? Notion to save any key documents. And I think that's it. Yeah. And then, yeah, like Gmail, obviously, right? I actually use Superhuman. I became a Superhuman user a few months ago, and it's candidly saved me so much time when getting back to email because if I don't want to get back to an email today, I'll just quickly, Command H, set a reminder to get back to it on Monday, and it'll come up at the top of my inbox then. So I find that to be amazing, especially for people like me where like, I just don't want to look at a 132 unread inbox and like freak out. It's amazing to be able to get to inbox zero, know that I'm done with the day, and I can close my laptop and just chill.
I like that because there's a lot of people who are like these, like, the whole hustle porn going on now. You mentioned Gary Vee before. I think he's calmed down a bit, but like, just the go, 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 go.
Yeah.
And do you give yourself like a schedule? Like you mentioned, like putting everything in calendar. Do you have like a set start end day? Like, how do you work? Like, what does your like ideal work day look like?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a start or end date. I tend to actually like working a bit later. So I normally start my day around 10 a.m. Because I normally like just the first few hours of the night, like morning, to be spent like having a good breakfast, showering, playing music in the shower. I love listening to music in the shower. So put on a new playlist, learn a couple of new songs, and then just start my day in a little bit more of a relaxed way. Because normally then the minute I start my day, calendar invites will shift around, meetings will be overbooked, and conflicts will happen, people will cancel. My calendar kind of just goes crazy during the middle of the day. But I do try to end my day around 5 or 6. Again, given the fact that normally from like 10 to 6, normally I'm like backed up with calls. It does mean that there are some days where I'll go for dinner with some friends and I'll have to come back and do email late at night. So I'll have to start my email and get back to it around 8:30 to about 11, watch a TV show, play video games, one of the two, and then go to bed. So that's a little bit of like a standard day for me, if you will. But again, it does change so much, especially now that things are opening up. We're going to be traveling again. So I just feel like my entire schedule is starting to, go a little bit backwards now.
Totally. Do you do a lot of travel for work?
Quite a bit. I mean, I also enjoy it. But obviously, for Trufan or also for speaking, right? I do speak under a bureau called Spotlight, and whether it's sending me to Yellowknife or Chile or to Europe and Germany or whatever, like I just like traveling by speaking. It's just a great way to kind of go in 2 days, like eat a decent amount of like cultural foods, learn a little bit about the place you're at, meet some really cool people at the conference you're speaking at, and then jet back. But yeah, I like, especially for business now with work, like with surf launching. I mean, I definitely want to make a trip out to LA and New York, obviously, because we would love to be able to get to the US audiences as well sooner rather than later.
Totally. Dude, let's get into the speaking because that's really fascinating for me. I mean, I first heard about your speaking career through the Tech House podcast, and I saw that you were hosting a lot of events, and then I looked more into it. I was like, oh shit, I didn't realize you did like all these speaking gigs. It's awesome. How did that come about, and how do you like balance that with what you're doing with Trufan? Like, because it seems like it's almost like two careers, but they're not mutually exclusive.
Definitely. So, I mean, I don't view speaking as a career just because I've been doing it for so long. Like grade 7 to 12, I was debating, like I mentioned, and that was a lot of public speaking. And then even in university for my first 2 years, I was debating at the University of Toronto. So I think it was only when I stopped debating where I kind of missed speaking to an audience and sharing my thoughts and opinions. So I decided to go and actually when I was, what would this be, like 3-4 years ago when I was like 20, I went to a bunch of schools and I just spoke for free. So I spoke for free at a bunch of high schools, a bunch of junior high schools, Mainly reached out to principals and teachers directly. Sometimes I'd be coaching debate in my third year of college, or what was supposed to be my third year of college, and I'd be coaching debate, and the student turned out to want to have me come to their school and speak at a class. So I did that for about a year, and then after doing that for a year, I started getting invited to a few events because of Dunk. I was working on Dunk. Obviously, we were working in a really cool space, had a really small team, but had a really awesome influence within the basketball world. So speaking at a few events started to allow me to even charge, and I started charging like $500, $1,000, $5,000 per event, to the point where then a bureau was really interested in signing me. So I first signed with the National Speakers Bureau, was with them for about a year, and then switched over to Speaker Spotlight, being with them ever since. But the good thing about being with the bureau now is that they will manage everything. So they'll find the gigs, they'll book my flights, they'll book my accommodation. All I really got to just do is show up and speak, do my job, and then leave. And so it makes it so that like I can balance, a quote unquote career in speaking with Trufan, because I'm not managing anything but my talk and my energy and my personality, which I already do on a daily basis at Trufan. The second cool thing also is that I can speak about Trufan through speaking. So it does allow us to, for lead gen, if it's a marketing event and there's a bunch of marketeers in the audience, talking about Trufan can be great. If it's also just generally speaking a university or high school I'm speaking at, it's amazing to be able to get interns or to get even hires from the places I'm speaking at when I talk about entrepreneurship and kind of my startup journey. So I've seen a lot of benefit, from speaking, from posting on social media like Instagram and LinkedIn. There's been a lot of benefits back to Trufan because of that. So I've, again, 99% of my day is still spent on Trufan, but there is obviously still time that I reserve towards speaking, once or twice a month, coming onto podcasts and interviews, and mainly talking about Trufan, and also obviously being able to share content on social, because it just makes me happy to connect with other people in my community.
Man, that is so awesome. And I love that. It really is that whole Gary V approach too, right? Like he does all these speaking gigs, but it always comes back to VaynerMedia, and what he's doing is all connected in the talk. It's not just something completely random. It's connected to what you're already doing. So how do you go about like actually getting part of a bureau, like the Speaker Spotlight? Like what does that process look like?
Yeah, I mean, with National Speakers Bureau, I reached out to them, and then their managing director came actually to one of my talks and just saw me speak, and she liked it, and she said, let's do something. With Speaker Spotlight, I had a number of investors and friends actually who were signed to Spotlight. So I got an introduction from Michelle Romanov at Clearco. She introduced me to Spotlight. I met with Martin, who runs Spotlight. And it was definitely an interesting fit, because they had never had a speaker that was born after the year of 1995. And I was born in 97. So immediately, like, there was a massive differentiation between me and like all of their other speakers just based on age. That was kind of neat, just to be able to kind of come into the bureau and kind of immediately get a few good gigs because of my age, because people were just like, who is this 22-year-old, and like, what are they talking about? So they were a little bit curious about that. So that's the process, really, like reaching out, going through and seeing who potentially is mutually connected, or who might already be a speaker at the bureau that might be able to introduce you. It's not too hard to be able to get on their radar. But again, timing is everything, right? Like, I know a number of people have applied to bureaus and they're just, understaffed, or they don't have the ability to bring on new clients at that time. And that's, again, where persistence comes into play. Maybe it didn't work out this year, but you reach back out next year and maybe that worked. So staying a little bit persistent is pretty important with this type of stuff.
And do you think now, because with COVID ending, events are going to start ramping up, you think now is a good time for people to start doing that?
100%. I mean, it was still going on, but like all virtually, right? We were still speaking. Right. It was not as fun, in my opinion. I like generally speaking in person a lot more. It's great to be able to connect with the audience in a better way. But yeah, I think obviously now that things are opening up, you should definitely look into it. My only kind of, I guess, point that I might make with an asterisk is you should really treat it as an art. You should really treat it as like something you have to work at. I find that a lot of entrepreneurs just assume because they're an entrepreneur, they can be a speaker. And that's not the case. Speaking is an art form in and of itself. So for me, again, from grade 7 to 12 was a lot of my education in public speaking around tone, around how fast you talk, around enunciation, around your ability to be persuasive. Those were things I learned through debate primarily. So if you want to be a great speaker, you need to really treat it with respect. Go to other events, watch speakers on YouTube, study, how you can be better at your own talks, practice as much as you can, even if you're practicing for free, that is practice. Because again, I want to make sure people know that, like, just because you're an entrepreneur or an author, it does not mean you can be a good speaker.
It's so true. It's like people who just think they can get on stage, start doing stand up, right? It's kind of like the same thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
it is
exactly.
an art form. It's so right.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So for people who might want to look into this, are there things that you've done, like any YouTube videos? Are there things that you've done to learn about the art form, to practice? Do you have a warm-up routine? What does that all look like?
I'm a little bit unorthodox. I don't have a warm up routine, other than I like to just quickly drink a glass of water before I go and talk. And I also don't talk with a script. Like, everything I do, all the TEDx talks I did were entirely unscripted. I just find that when I have a script, I focus a lot more on memorization than engaging with the audience and reacting to them. So if I made a joke, I like to laugh with the audience, and I know it might be weird to laugh at your own joke, but it's nice to laugh with the audience to make people feel like, all right, it's a chill vibe, and not just another, like, joke that they're reading out to you basically in a script in their mind. So yeah, that's maybe a little bit about me, just like a little bit unorthodox that way. But if you do obviously want to practice, I mean, YouTube is your best friend. Like, there are a bunch of just public speaking, best practices, tips that people have posted on YouTube. You can also equally just search up like Speaker Spotlight, and they have a bunch of videos from speakers at their bureau, and you can watch some of them and see, which style do you like, which style do you not like, because every person is different. Like, my style might not resonate with you, but maybe Michelle Romanoff's style or Simon Sinek's style will resonate with you a lot more, or Gary Vee's style would resonate a lot more with you. So kind of pick, I think, who you want to follow, audit the people you follow, obviously, and then don't try to copy them, but try to take tips. Like, one of the things I learned from Gary, I spoke with him at 2 conferences. One of the conferences I spoke with him at, I just noticed how brilliant he was in Q&A. That's, in my opinion, the best part of his talk, is when people can ask him questions and he can like make fun of them, or he can make a really awesome joke at the right time and get people's attention, and then give like a kind of home run answer to the question directly. So that's one, amazing thing you can learn from Gary. Something you could probably learn from Michelle Romanoff is just the emotion that she speaks with. When she talks about her journey as an entrepreneur, you can kind of feel the pain she endured during some of those early moments of her building out her caviar business or her building out Bitopia. So maybe there are things like that you can pick up on, as opposed to just, trying to copy Gary, because there are a lot of people, candidly, who do that. And I just don't think it'll take you very far to be a carbon copy of a speaker that's already so famous.
Oh, totally. Like, they're already taken. Like, people are going to book them. They want to hear from them and their style.
Exactly.
But I love that point that you make of like not memorizing a script, because I think a lot of people would think, but they're going to script it out, or like maybe they'll have slides or something and they want to memorize it.
Yeah.
So for you, like, do you just have like a certain, I mean, it's just, you're talking candidly, right? It's just your story. You're talking about what you've done. Like, what do you kind of think about when you're kind of like, quote unquote, scripting, or at least plotting out what you're going to speak about?
Yeah, I mean, I think clarity is very important. So I try to only talk about things that I know about. Even in Q&A, like if someone asked me a question about something I didn't know a lot about, I would preface my answer by saying, by the way, I don't know a lot about this, but here's what I generally think by maybe 1 or 2 articles I read. So that's number one, is whenever I speak, I think that comes down to authenticity as well, is like, you need to be the real person that you are, which means going back to what you know and staying away from what you don't know. And so for me, when it comes to what I know, it's like mental health, it's entrepreneurship, it's personal branding on LinkedIn. These are things I can talk about forever because I've done it. So all I do is speak on my experiences, and I don't feel like I need a script to tell people about my story and what I've done.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. And that's the way to do it. And I'm sure that comes through in your writing too on LinkedIn and elsewhere. So I do want to get into that, because I know that you've had a pretty extensive LinkedIn journey. And that's kind of where it seems like you're getting a lot of growth. I mean, Instagram too, you're verified on there. So maybe when it comes to LinkedIn, how would you think about growing network and building a brand, a personal brand on LinkedIn? And, there's a lot of people that just put so much bullshit, to be candid, on LinkedIn. How do you stay away from that? How have you actually been able to build a following on there and still be yourself?
I think 2 things. One is I've engaged with a lot of people just on a very deeper level. Like for me, when I was starting up on LinkedIn 4 or 5 years ago, I used to comment back to every single person. I still try to do that. So whenever I can, I go into the comments, I reply to people, I ask them a question back, I thank them for their comment. So that's something I still do, and I think it helps to be able to like know that this person is not just posting content every 4 hours, but they actually are trying to care about their community and they are responding. And this kind of dialogue is a two-way street. The second thing is I also engaged with my community across events, right? I hosted a bunch of LinkedIn local events, whether it was in Toronto, whether it was in Mumbai, whether it was in London, whether it was in Singapore, wherever I went for a speaking engagement, I just host a LinkedIn meetup. Whether it was 20 people that came out or 100 people that came out, we always had a good time. And again, it was a great way for someone to just get to know me as a person and know that this isn't just an avatar posting content every single hour. And then the third and final thing I think I did is also get on 5-minute calls with people, right? So if you can't go to a physical meetup, comment back to certain people that you regularly see in your comments. Say, hey, I'd love to get to know you. Thanks so much for dropping a few comments on my post. Are you free for 5 or 10 minutes next week? And just get to know them quickly, right? Like, here's a little bit about me. What's going on in your world? What can I potentially help you with? All right, thank you. Because the next time they see your profile, they're more likely to respond again and comment because they feel like they know you. So those are just 3 things that come down to engagement, which is why I think I did fairly well on LinkedIn, is because I actually cared about the community I was building. And then the second thing is collaboration, right? Once you've started to post content and you're starting to build a community, mix your community with other people's community, right? For me, that was collaborating via video or articles or a hashtag campaign, doing that with Aaron Orendorff, doing that with Michaela Alexis, doing that with Alan Gannett, doing that with Buster Scher, a bunch of people who had their own community in various places in the world. But those people started to see me because we were posting content together, we were engaging with one another, and it was a great kind of cross-pollination of audiences there.
That's awesome, man. And I think what you're really talking about here is like principles that are not just for LinkedIn, but just to be a social human being, right? It's like right now we're kind of like texting and most of the time on this little like rectangle thingy, like, it's just kind of like, I think we'll look back on it kind of like writing people letters and stuff. And there's platforms even now like with TikTok where it's a little bit more personal, where like you're stitching and you're doing like responding on video. So I guess like maybe at the beginning, why did you choose LinkedIn to kind of really go all in? And then what kind of platforms would you think about now if you were to start again?
I definitely pick LinkedIn still because I find that like there's 80 million monthly active users on LinkedIn and yet only 5% of them post on a weekly basis. So there's a massive white space, and LinkedIn by no means is saturated when it comes to content, let alone high quality content. If I was like born maybe 4 or 5 years after I was born, I might have been on TikTok, candidly. Like, I just think it's obviously pretty straightforward. It's basically just an app where you come on, put out some positivity, you dance, you post something insightful or creative, and they have some engine in the back end. I think it's artificial, but it's some artificial engine that'll put you in front of a bunch of people and kind of allow you to grow that way. And then I think the ones I would stay away from are like Snapchat. I would stay away from Facebook. I would use Twitter, but like maybe not as much because it's kind of only relevant if you're like in the PR world or the gaming world, in my opinion. Not as relevant for all types of other people. I feel like Instagram, again, is just a go-to option. Like Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok, I don't think you can go wrong with those 3 platforms right now.
Yeah, totally. And it's funny because I thought the exact same thing about Twitter, and I totally slept on Twitter up until about last year. And now I finally just somehow, I don't know how, but through COVID, I was like, I'm just going to try this Twitter thing. I've been finding so many great people for this podcast, connecting with so many great people. And I finally just created this community where I know anytime I open up that app, I'm going to learn something that's like relevant to me. Mm-hmm. And I guess it's just how you use it, right? Just how you've built up that initial network. How did you think about that, like for LinkedIn, for you? Like when you were first starting that network, like when you first got on there, how did you first get that small little snowball rolling to start building that up quicker and quicker?
I think it was like just consistency of content was something I was thinking a lot about, right? Like I want to make sure that I'm not just posting once a week, but I wanted to make sure that people were seeing me and just were also like, who is this kid? That was the question I was trying to evoke with people. So I was posting almost every day. I wasn't trying to be annoying though, right? Like I was actually sharing like valuable content, whether it was a video, a photo, or just like an interview that I had written up with a high net worth individual, or whether it was just a post that I made on my own asking people a question because I was a college student and didn't know too much. So those were things I did. And past consistency, collaboration, community, I think candidly, the last thing I really cared a lot about was just connecting with people. So for me, like I know a lot of people are a little bit scared of getting random connection requests, but I didn't mind. Like if someone connected with me, I just accepted because it's not Facebook. I don't have my birthday photos on it. I don't have personal information on LinkedIn. If someone wants to professionally connect with me, I will accept them up until the point they're weird. If they're weird, I'll just block them and then we'll move on. But for me, I just accepted every connection request I got on LinkedIn as well. And I was also quite shameless about sending connection requests to people I didn't know. So if I found someone really cool who I was like, I want to kind of connect with them and talk to them, I sent them a connection request right away. And I'd always try to personalize it as well, like add a message so that people wouldn't just scroll through and skip by my name. They would actually see the message I sent.
Totally. Okay, that's awesome. Thanks for those tips, man. So that's amazing. And so what are you thinking about now? Like in terms of your own social network building out, because you're still young, man. Like you're 3 years younger than me. I only know that because you said 97, that same year as my brother, who is also episode 40. He talks about LinkedIn. So he has like a whole course and he teaches people how to use LinkedIn effectively for sales and doing really well. So it's so funny. Somehow the 97s, you guys all love LinkedIn. Everyone thinks it's for older people. No, 97s, man. Yeah, it's so funny. So it's so funny that you guys are like thinking about that. But for you now, like, how are you building out your network now? What are you thinking about now? Are you still just going back to LinkedIn? How are you building up your network now? And how are you, because you're still young, man. Like you're going to look back on this as still yet another little node in the network. Like as I'm seeing what's happening with Trufan, I'm sure something will happen. There'll be a turning point for you there, whether maybe you exit it, maybe like you sell it, maybe there's an acqui-hire guys. I'm sure something will happen and you'll go into the next stage. So how are you thinking about that right now? Like, what are you doing for that next step almost?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm enjoying my time quite a lot. Like, I feel like when I was 20, 21, 22, I was in like a very, like overly exhausting building mode, like across the board, like building the business, building my network, building my lifestyle, building where I was going to live, building my friend group, all of that. And now I just feel like there's a lot of things that are calm. Like, I have a really awesome core group of friends in Toronto. I know that Toronto is going to be my home base for the foreseeable future. I know the vision of where Trufan is going. I have built a network that I'm really happy about, whether it's in the world of VC or entertainment or influencers, celebrities, sports space. I know that I have people I can reach out to where I'm kind of 1 degree connection away from a lot of people that I might want to meet down the road. I really have no reason, though, to meet them now. Like, I have nothing I can provide them. So I'm a little bit comfortable, honestly. Like I'm just feeling like I'm in a position where I can now just fully absorb my time with Trufan, launch cool new products like Surf, hopefully that will hopefully do well, and just go from there. So that's pretty much the only thing on my radar right now is Surf, and then probably traveling. I haven't taken a vacation in like 3 years. So I want to take a vacation ideally in October, hopefully go to Costa Rica with a few friends and then go from there.
That's awesome, man. Well, I'm glad to hear that. It's super inspiring. Like you get to focus on your vision. And now you can just live. Like, yeah, you're still building things, but now you have a team to help carry the weight. You're doing some awesome stuff. And then, of course, vacations are much needed. I just got back from one last week. That's why I'm so fucking dark right now. Like get through here, I'm like 10 degrees fucking darker than I normally am. And it's nice to be able to do that, right? And you talked about mental health before. It's so fucking important to like, think about that part. I think over COVID, although, you were working from home, I feel like most people were working way more than they were before. They were like killing themselves, like, because no one really knows how to work remotely. I'm glad that over the last couple of years, my company was remote years ago. I was doing a lot of freelance work and I was used to working from home, but people don't have that distinction. So it's good that you have that on-off switch.
It's so important to me, right? Like for me, I definitely was working way more hours during COVID than I was not. And then even when I wasn't working, like it wasn't like I was living a stress-free life because I was gaming. And for me, like gaming is similar to basketball. I'm extremely competitive. And so is my co-founder, and he's quite a big gamer as well. So we were both playing Call of Duty and just trying to do well in the competitive rankings. So yeah, I mean, like now that things are opening up and I can actually go outside and play golf and play tennis and travel, those are the things I want to do because I genuinely find those to be the most relaxing moments of my life where my mind is free to think and also to just like indulge in new experiences and not feel like I'm just growing older every single day.
So true, and that's where your best work comes out, right? You get the best ideas in the shower and when you're playing golf.
Yeah, honestly, the shower is like the worst for me because I literally keep my phone right beside now because if I have a good thought, I need to text myself. There have been moments I remember in Calgary when I go back home where like my mom just doesn't want me to ever bring electronics into my bedroom or into the shower. She's like adamant that I put it in the kitchen so that it doesn't like mess with my head. But literally there've been moments in Calgary where like she's gone to go and teach. I'm like showering in the bathroom. I think of an idea and I run out with like my towel and just have to text myself quickly with shampoo in my hair. So yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's hilarious, man.
Yeah.
Wait, dude, back on the gaming though, because
Yeah.
I've had about a 7-month dry spell of
Oh,
not
shit.
playing any games.
No way.
Yeah, man, that's bad for your mental health. People think that playing too many video games is bad for your mental health. No, I'm telling you right now, guys, it's the other way around.
Yeah.
So what are you playing now? You mentioned Call of Duty. What are you mainly playing now?
I just switched over to Splitgate. So it's a free-to-play first-person shooter. It basically is Halo mixed with Portal. It came out about 2 years ago, and it came out mainly on PC initially. It didn't do as well on PC, and then they launched their console version about 3 months ago. In May, they had about 600 concurrent users. They now have about 115,000 concurrent users. And it's literally like 4 people out of San Francisco who dropped out of Stanford and created this company, 1047 Games. Every single Friday, their founder will come on and just answer questions from the community. Like, are these bugs going to be fixed? What's going to be built out next? When is the next update coming out? When is the next season starting? So it's really cool that like they're very interactive with their community, and their game is amazing. It's so much fun. It's nice to finally like, I was getting a little bit bored about Warzone. I was getting really bored about Fortnite. I was getting really bored about 2K. So I was kind of looking for another game that might challenge me in a different way. And Halo meets Portal is actually quite a challenging mix when it comes to like not only having to be kind of good at gun skill, but also having to be pretty good at like where to portal, when to portal, how you go about portaling, all of that.
Wow. Okay, I'm gonna check that out. What's the name of the game again?
Splitgate. It's a free to play game. It's a free to play game too, so it's really cool.
It's on PC and consoles?
PC and consoles now, yeah.
Oh man, I'm gonna check that out. But you bring up a good point, man. It's like almost like playing 4D chess, right? Like it's not just about shooting, running, gunning. Fortnite kind of started that with the building, but now it's like you really have to think a couple moves ahead. Yeah. And I always talk about gaming in terms of life and also with business and how you think about strategy. I personally have this like mental model in my mind that like our life and like reality that we kind of built as a society is like an MMORPG, right? It makes total sense. And using that mental model, you can talk about leveling up and like connecting and building clans and stuff. Do you feel the same way? Do you have the same sort of like mental model when it comes to like our real life when it comes to gaming?
I mean, like the world's a simulation. I mean, I do believe that in a not like a Elon Musk way, but just in the way it's like, you know, life is a pretty predictable and cyclical concept. So I see it exactly like you do. It's like you're playing a video game, candidly, where there's, you know, objectives to do. There's benefits for those objectives. There is obstacles in front of you. There is obviously the benefit of being able to ally with other people. So it's, you nailed it. It's essentially an MMORPG. Obviously, you know, without the violence, hopefully, but yeah.
There's violence in other ways. So you're building your clans by building companies, right? So I think there's something to be said about this, like the connection here. I think it's really interesting.
One of the board games I played a lot growing up was A Game of Life, and I love that game. It's one of the games I actually think most kids should play growing up. It's so fun to just think about like like I literally was learning about like mortgages and saving money and like picking my career properly. Like those were things that I was thinking about playing The Game of Life, and pretty neat game.
It is, but I'm also thinking about it the other way, where that might put people to sleep in a certain sense, where they're like kind of like programmed to do life in a certain way. Whereas like, you know, you're a pretty good example of like you can go off the beaten path. You don't have to go on that roller coaster of life, and you can start building your own paths. And that's kind of where I'm starting to think about how can I teach people that. And I think you just did it kind of naturally, it seems. But how would you teach people that almost that awakening moment of like, hey, you can go on your own path, you can do your own thing, and you can start playing a game the way you want to play it and start building your own rules?
I mean, I think it's just the way the world is working. It seems like technology has made everything easier and faster and cheaper, right? So like creating a startup now is so much more affordable. Literally setting up a Shopify store is like the extent to which you need to really set up an e-commerce store now, right? And that is insanely cheaper than it was 30 or 40 years ago, where if you were building software companies, you needed to have servers that costed literally a fortune to be able to set up and run and process and manage. So I think it's just worth noting that everything has become incredibly democratized. Like whether it's information like YouTube, Udemy, Masterclass, Maven, all of these platforms that are coming up are just disseminating information at a faster level for anyone to learn about anything. And it means that, yes, college is important for certain tracks. If you want to be a lawyer, you should definitely go to college. If you want to be a doctor, you should definitely go to college. You know, if you want to be an engineer and you want to work at Intel, you probably should go to college. But it doesn't mean that these other career paths that are actually becoming very viable career paths, like being a Twitch streamer, being a gamer, being an entrepreneur, like you don't need to follow the standard route for those careers. Again, as long as you test out whether you're actually good at these certain things by starting something from scratch and seeing if it works, and also being able to hopefully have a good network around you where you can support yourself. So I do encourage people when they're creating their first business to just think about what their fallback is, right? For me, my fallback was go back to college, but for some people, if it's not go back to college and it's also not get a job, you're putting yourself in a really risky position. So just think about what your fallback is. And if you had a job before, see if you can even build a company from scratch while you're working at the job, and then leave the job only when you feel like you really cannot manage both. That would be my kind of biggest advice when it comes to maybe going off the path of the normal path to success, if you will.
Yeah, totally. I always tell people that too. Like, don't quit your job until at least like your side hustle, whatever that business is like making more than what you're currently making. And that makes sense.
Making more, exactly. Or for me, it was raising a round, right? Like the minute I raised my round, my mom was fine with me dropping out. Like we were able to work on Dunk for about a year and a half. And then obviously from Dunk, it was great to be able to go from there and build out Trufan.
Yeah, and I like to hear this kind of distinction. There's like the bootstrappers and there's people who go for VC funding. Obviously, you've gone for the VC funding. What is the pros and cons versus trying to go it yourself?
So there's definitely a few. I mean, obviously bootstrapping, just ownership wise, you'll be left with a bigger piece of the pie than you would when you give up, obviously, parts of your company in every single round. Bootstrapping also, especially if you're talking about like a company that scales using the VC model, bootstrapping might allow you to control your company as well, in the sense of like decision making, ownership over like who you hire, what sort of vision you chase, where you don't really have other like board of directors and people that might be able to have a vote or a say in your company. And I think bootstrapping is also great because you don't really have investors, right? So you don't really need to like be in that company if you lose like love for it. It's obviously a little bit challenging with investors because like if you like get out of love with your company or you don't really want to do this anymore, you might be screwing people along the way when you leave, right? So you are a little bit under the hook, if you will, and kind of put under pressure to make sure that you continue to work on this project because you are at really the mercy of your investors. You want to give a good return to them so that hopefully if you do something down the road, you can work with them again. So that's like maybe the pros for bootstrapping, but obviously there's a bunch of pros for VC. You bring on money that you can scale quicker with, whether it's hiring faster, building out a product quicker, being able to get into a wider market quicker. There's obviously the benefit of bringing on experts, hopefully. So if you choose your VC properly, they might have operational expertise in your area that you can leverage for introductions, for advice, literally, on how to run the company and grow it and hire well, etc. And I think third and maybe lastly, it's credibility as well, right? Depending on which VC you bring on, your company might get a lot more press. That's just the way the world works. I wish it didn't, but TechCrunch normally reports on big fundraising rounds. They don't report on big partnerships that bootstrap companies had. That's just
easy
the way the
headline
world works.
for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And then obviously credibility also in terms of like customers, right? If they see that you're a venture-backed company and they see like, oh, Andreessen Horowitz or Sequoia funded you, they might actually give you the time of day to go and talk to their team and see if they're potentially the partnership or potentially even a way to like come onto the company if you're a potential hire or even be a customer. So I think credibility is also another thing that might come down the VC path as well.
Totally. Yeah, man, that's awesome. I love your 2 cents on that. And I know we're coming around for time now, and you've been super generous with your time. I really appreciate it, man.
No worries.
So I do have some final questions for you before we get going. So the biggest thing I want to know too, so like we've been talking about like you giving advice to other people, you giving advice to me and subsequently people listening. What advice would you give yourself, your 16-year-old self right now? If you had him on the other side of this call?
Just, stay patient and don't sweat the small stuff. I think it was like 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 were years where like I just overstressed, overcomplicated a lot of things because I was like very worried about my future. And, I think it's understandable because like, especially when I was 20, I was considering dropping out and that was an insanely difficult decision because I come from an Asian family where every single member of my family either graduated law school or has a master's degree. And so for me not to even complete my bachelor's degree was like, oh, whoa, what the hell happened? But I think just realizing that like in the end, the problems that we had this year, 2 to 3 years from now, we laugh at them, like they're not really big problems then. So I just wish that like that was something I definitely told my 16-year-old self. Is like, don't stress. Like if anything, high school was so much easier than what I'm doing now. College was so much easier than what I'm doing now. Thankfully, I love what I do now, which definitely makes it easier. But at the same time, like, I just feel like as you grow older and older and older, more responsibilities get tacked onto you. You kind of maybe think back and maybe think that, oh, like I probably shouldn't have stressed that much about my life in those earlier years.
Totally. And then you almost like, I always find whenever I give myself this kind of advice, you're almost like your older self telling yourself right now, like, hey,
Yeah.
telling myself literally right now, like whatever I'm feeling right now, it may seem stressful, but I'm going to look back on it 5-10 years from now. Is it even going to matter?
Yeah.
Even if it does, it's not a big thing.
If I do this podcast at 32, I hope I don't give that same advice, because I just gave that advice to my 16-year-old self, and I'm pretty sure that like my 32-year-old self is going to give my 24-year-old self the same advice as well, right? So I'm very much trying to live by the advice I just gave to my 16-year-old self.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
And okay, so if you had $1 billion to advertise and $1 billion advertising budget to spread a message to the world, what would that be?
Climate change is real. And I would hopefully accompanied with a lot of, very true facts about how the world is getting warmer, climates are being destroyed, and we're killing people in many countries as well, with dramatic weather changes that are happening. That is not a coincidence. It doesn't just happen because the world is built like this. It's man-made in many ways. So that would be my $1 billion campaign, is explaining to people that, especially in the South, climate change is real.
Damn, that's heavy, man, but it's so true. I actually just read one of your articles, Nature 2.0.
Yep.
I'll link it in the description for anyone who wants to get into it. But I actually did want to ask you about this before I ask my final question. You did talk about climate change, and you also talked about these sort of alternative meat companies. And obviously, I mean, one of the things I'm personally a vegetarian, pescatarian technically, but vegetarian. One of the reasons that made me stop eating meat was the climate component to it. Was that something that, do you still eat meat, or is that something that you now think about?
Yeah, I mean, I've cut back meat dramatically. You're a really great person. I don't know if I have the will to quit chicken just yet, because if I quit chicken, I actually don't know where my source of protein would come from.
I'll give you another episode. I just recorded an episode last week with this really amazing vegan chef, Doug McNish. Yeah. And he talked about a lot of different protein alternatives. Yes. One that I didn't even think about was hemp seeds. He's like, you put that in smoothie and it's more than, you don't even need protein powder. Hemp seeds, you're good to go. There's so many alternative things. Yeah.
I'd love to listen to that 100%. So, I mean, other than that, though, I don't eat beef. I don't eat lamb. I don't eat pork. I don't eat any of that type of stuff, duck or whatever. But I was really interested in that article because there's obviously so many other alternatives now, right? Like nugs, for example, like their chicken nuggets legitimately taste like chicken. So, obviously they aren't right now in stores in Canada. You have to order online, but I can't wait till they come up to the Sobeys and the Loblaws here in Canada, because I'll be getting that forever.
Oh, dude, check out Good Rebel Vegan. It's a small shop here on Queen Street. I live in Vegandale, so I have so many options around me. You can order. I think they'll even deliver it. Right. But they have Beyond Meat chicken nuggets, and it's exactly like nugs, man. You'll love it. It is so good.
Good Rebel. Yeah, we're all Good Rebel.
Yeah, Good Rebel Vegan.
Got it.
Yeah, man. So that's awesome. I'm glad that there's people like you like actually thinking about that. And I think you're right. As more of these alternative meats come more available, and there's other things, and we have more education about it. Yep. It's kind of like the electric vehicle thing, right? When it's cheaper to just have a Tesla or another electric vehicle than paying for gas, it's going to make sense for everyone to switch over. And I think it's a matter of time where it will make sense.
Absolutely.
Because you just want that burger. You don't really care if it's from a cow or not.
Literally.
Yeah. All right, man. Last question. I love to end this off on every podcast. What's something that you're really excited about coming up?
Surf. I'm just so amped. Like, I think this is going to be cool, just to see if people actually believe in the thesis that I've been talking about, right? Sharing data is totally fine if I get something in return. I want to prove that hypothesis out now on a much bigger level. And so putting Surf in action, Google Chrome, Safari, Firefox, and Opera are going to be the first browsers that you can get the extension on. We're hoping that within 6 to 8 months after launch, we'll be able to get a mobile application spun up as well. Get points for free. Get points for doing something you already do on a everyday basis. That's what we're trying to appeal to consumers with. And so pretty excited to be able to get that out in mid-September.
Awesome. And where can people find out a little bit more about you, connect with you, and where can they learn more about Trufan?
So LinkedIn, Swish Goswami on LinkedIn. If you just search up SWISH, I'm hopefully the only Swish in your network. And then Trufan, TRUFAN.io.
Awesome, man. Okay, well, this was such a pleasure, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me. Melding of the minds.
Absolutely. It was super fun. Thank you so much for having me. And very excited to hopefully do this again in 8 years.
Yeah, or hopefully before that. Maybe hopefully we'll do another tech house or something. I'm sure we'll do another podcast, maybe an in-person event. Will be really cool. Amazing. Some kind of entrepreneurship meetups in Toronto. I'm super thankful you're in Toronto still. So that's awesome, man. Okay, well, dude, this was great. We'll definitely do this again. And good luck on the launch of Surf, man. This is going to be really cool. I'm going to sign up for it right away. I know I'm going to try it out on my Brave browser, so I get crypto and regular rewards.
Nice.
And I'm excited to see how this goes, man. Man, amazing. I'm really excited about it.
Thanks so much, Josh. Appreciate it.
Cool. Take care, man.
Bye.